She answered a wrong number, and a billionaire fell in love with her voice. But can midnight calls survive reality? Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. To watch the complete story, click the YouTube link in my profile, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Also, don't forget to click the TikTok follow, because tomorrow I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. Stacy Martinez wiped the counter of bean and brew, her cafe tucked in a quiet corner of downtown Miami. The clock read 11:55 p.m., and she let out a long sigh, rubbing the ache from her shoulders. Another late shift had finally slowed, leaving only a few stubborn night owls nursing lukewarm lattes. It had been a long day. Orders had poured in non-stop. The espresso machine had sputtered, and one particularly clumsy customer had tipped a whole tray of drinks onto the floor. Stacy had cleaned it up, apologized with a tired smile, and kept moving. She glanced at her phone, which vibrated insistently. The number was unfamiliar. Normally, she ignored unknown calls at this hour, but a strange instinct made her answer. "Hello?" she said, her voice cautious but firm. "Please, I need help," said the voice. A man panicked, with a deep British accent that made her lean forward, curious despite herself. Stacy frowned. "Okay, who is this? What kind of help?" "My sister. She's in trouble," he stammered. There was raw fear in his voice. Stacy's heart skipped. Something about the urgency made her pulse quicken. She had spent years working in customer service and had a knack for staying calm under pressure. "All right," she said slowly. "Start from the beginning. Tell me exactly what's happening." He hesitated. I think I dialed the wrong number. I don't even know why I called you." His words trailed off into a shiver of uncertainty. Stacy's heart softened. "Well, you reached me. Let's see if we can sort this out." Over the next few minutes, he described the situation with his sister. Panicked, desperate, confused, and Stacy guided him step by step, staying calm and asking questions to clarify. She gave instructions, reassurance, and even cracked a few jokes to calm his nerves. By the end, he sounded more composed, though tension lingered in his voice like a storm cloud. "Wait," he said suddenly. "You're not in London?" "Nope," Stacy said, leaning back against the counter. "Miami." There was a pause. "I think I called the wrong number." "You did," she said, a smile tugging at her lips. "But somehow I'm helping anyway." "Yes," he admitted. "And thank you. You didn't have to do this, you know." "I couldn't not," Stacy said. She smiled at the quiet hum of the cafe around her. Then the line went dead. She stared at her phone, expecting nothing more. But seconds later, it buzzed with a message from the same number. "Thank you, Stacy, for everything." She blinked. "He knows my name?" she murmured, turning the phone over in her hands. The next night, as she finished her closing duties, the phone rang again. Same number. Midnight. "Hello?" she answered cautiously. "Hi, it's Andrew," the familiar voice said. Calm, controlled, magnetic. "You again," Stacy said, mock irritation in her tone. "Should I be scared or flattered?" "Flattered," he said, a hint of humor in his voice. "I wanted to hear your voice again." Stacy felt her cheeks warm. "You're dangerous, you know that?" "I'm just a very persistent wrong number," he teased. Thus began their nightly ritual. Every night, Stacy would finish her shift, wash her hands, and settle into a quiet corner of her tiny apartment to answer his call. Each conversation stretched longer than the last. They shared stories about their childhoods, favorite foods, music, and mundane life details. Stacy laughed more than she had in months, and Andrew confessed small secrets and fears he'd never shared with anyone else. She learned he was a billionaire, a man who moved through boardrooms, private jets, and high society parties with effortless control. Yet right now, talking to her across continents, he was human, vulnerable, and entirely captivating. He seemed fascinated by her life at the cafe, by the ordinary yet comforting rhythms she took for granted. He asked about her favorite coffee, her Sunday routines, and the little moments that brought her joy. Night after night, she found herself opening up, sharing things she'd never told anyone. Andrew listened without judgment, laughed at her jokes, and occasionally teased her until she blushed over the phone. "Do you ever feel lonely, Stacy?" he asked one night, his voice quieter than usual, almost tender. "Sometimes," she admitted, her voice soft, "but I've learned to be okay with it." "I see," he said. "And what if someone made you feel otherwise?" Her heart fluttered. "Are you trying to seduce me over the phone, Mr. Mathias?" "Maybe," he admitted. "Or maybe I'm just addicted to talking to you." Despite herself, Stacy felt the walls she had carefully built around her heart beginning to crumble. Each night, she waited for his call. Each night, she felt a connection that shouldn't exist between her. Just a simple cafe worker. And him, a man whose life spanned continents. Somewhere in London, Andrew sat in his luxurious penthouse, overlooking the city skyline. He had built an empire, controlled millions, and yet he found himself counting the minutes until midnight, when he could hear her voice. The wrong number had become the thread connecting his lonely life to something real, something thrilling, something impossible. Neither of them knew it yet, but this connection would soon upend their worlds. The thrill of anonymity, the tension of impossibility, it was intoxicating. And somewhere beneath the laughter and whispered secrets, both of them felt it. The pull of something neither wanted to admit. Because sometimes the wrong number isn't wrong at all. And sometimes it changes everything. That night, as Stacy set her phone down after their conversation, she noticed a second call. Same number, but different ringtone. Heart pounding, she answered, and heard a voice that made her blood run cold. "Stacy, it's urgent. You have to trust me." What happens when Andrew's world starts pressing into Stacy's life in ways she never expected? Subscribe and hit the bell to see how this midnight romance unfolds. Stacy froze, her hand hovering over the phone. The voice on the line was urgent, controlled yet panicked. A side of Andrew she had never heard before. "Stacy, you have to trust me," he said, the usual charm stripped away, leaving only raw urgency. "Andrew? What is it?" Her voice trembled, half with worry, half with adrenaline. "I can't explain everything right now," he whispered, "but there's someone watching me, and you might be in danger too." Her heart skipped. Danger? She was just a cafe worker. How could she possibly be tied to a billionaire's problems? Yet the fear in his voice made her instinctively believe him. "Okay, stay calm," she said, gripping the edge of the counter. "Tell me what I should do. I need you to leave the apartment. Don't touch anything. Just go somewhere public. Anywhere you can be safe for the next few hours. And, Stacy, don't tell anyone about this call." Stacy swallowed hard. Her mind raced. Who could possibly be watching a billionaire like him, and why involve her? But the urgency in his voice left no room for hesitation. She grabbed her coat and bag, pausing only to glance at the small cafe photo she kept in her wallet, a reminder of her quiet, ordinary life. Within 10 minutes, she was on the street, wandering under the dim glow of streetlights. Her phone buzzed again. Andrew's message. "Good. Keep moving. I'll call you in 30 minutes. 30 minutes felt like an eternity. She walked past late-night diners, quiet streets, and the occasional taxi rushing by, imagining shadows lurking in every corner. Her mind raced through every scenario. A stalker? A corporate rival? The more she thought about it, the more impossible it seemed. She was just a girl who made cappuccinos and served muffins. How could she be part of something dangerous? Finally, her phone rang. Andrew's voice was calmer but still tense. "Are you safe?" he asked. "I think so," Stacy said, trying to steady her shaking hands. "I'm just walking around." "Good. Don't stop moving yet. Listen carefully. What I tell you next is important." She leaned against a lamppost, listening intently as he outlined a series of instructions. Avoid certain streets, go to a nearby 24-hour cafe, and don't interact with anyone she didn't know. Every word painted a picture of danger she couldn't fully understand. And yet, She followed them instinctively, trusting him despite the surreal circumstances. By the time she reached the small cafe he recommended, she was exhausted. The smell of fresh pastries and coffee soothed her frayed nerves. She ordered a black coffee, then settled into a corner booth with her phone pressed to her ear. Andrew's voice returned, softer now, almost confessional. "Stacy, I need to tell you something. Something I've never told anyone." Her pulse quickened. "What is it?" I've built my life on control, on power, on hiding what I really feel. But with you, I can't hide anything. You make me feel things I thought I'd buried forever." Stacy felt a rush of emotion. She had known their nightly conversations were special, but this was something else. The billionaire behind the polished exterior was revealing vulnerability, a side only she had seen. "Andrew," she began, her voice soft, I feel the same way, but I don't understand why any of this is happening. Why involve me?" He sighed. "Because somehow, you matter to me more than anything else. I don't know why I called that wrong number. I just know that the second I heard your voice, everything changed." Stacy's chest tightened. It was surreal. A man who lived in a world she had only seen in magazines, confessing feelings she had only dreamed of hearing. And yet, she believed him. Somehow, deep down, she trusted him. Before she could respond, a sudden crash came from the street outside. Stacy jumped, spilling a little coffee on the edge of the table. She hurried to the window and saw a black car idling suspiciously. Two men in dark coats glanced around before disappearing into the night. Her phone buzzed. Andrew's name flashed on the screen. "Stacy, are you all right?" His voice was tense again. There were men outside," she whispered, her heart pounding. "Stay put. Don't engage. I'm sending someone to make sure you're safe." Stacy's breath caught. Someone to protect her? Her life had never been like this. She had never needed protection. And yet, part of her felt thrilled, dangerous, alive in a way her quiet cafe life never allowed. Hours passed. She stayed in the corner booth, sipping coffee, phone in hand, listening for every little sound outside. When morning light finally crept through the windows, she realized she hadn't slept. Not a wink. Her phone buzzed with a final message from Andrew. "You were brave tonight. Get some rest. We'll talk soon." And Stacy, "Thank you for trusting me." Exhausted, she leaned back in her chair, her mind spinning. The line between danger and excitement blurred. Her life had always been simple, predictable, safe. Now, it felt like it teetered on the edge of something extraordinary and terrifying. Later that day, back at the cafe, Stacy tried to act normal. Customers came and went, and she smiled, poured drinks, and wiped counters. But her mind kept drifting to Andrew, to the danger, to the thrilling unpredictability of the past night. Every sound of a car horn, every shadow outside, made her heart race. She told herself she was overreacting. She was safe, right? Yet deep down, she knew life as she knew it had changed forever. That wrong number, that one midnight call, had thrown her into a world she could neither predict nor escape. And she couldn't help but wonder, how far would this connection go? Because Andrew wasn't just a voice over the phone anymore. He was becoming part of her life, part of her heart. And danger was closer than she realized. That night, as Stacy locked up the cafe, her phone rang again. Same number, same voice. But this time, Andrew's tone was urgent, almost desperate. "Stacy, they know where you are. You have to leave now. Find out who's after Stacy and how far she'll go for a billionaire she's never met in person. Hit subscribe and ring the bell to follow this thrilling midnight romance." Stacy's hands trembled as she stuffed her phone into her coat pocket. Andrew's warning echoed in her mind. "They know where you are. You have to leave now." The street outside was dark, nearly empty, but every shadow seemed alive, every footstep a threat. She took a deep breath and stepped into the night. Her mind raced. Who were they? Why were they after her? And why, of all people, did she get caught up in this dangerous web? Her feet carried her instinctively to a nearby train station. the hum of fluorescent lights above doing little to calm her nerves. She considered calling the police, but Andrew had told her not to involve anyone. Trust him. That was the mantra she repeated to herself, clinging to the belief that the voice she had grown to care for so deeply had a plan. As she scanned the empty platform, a black SUV pulled up at the curb. A man in a dark suit stepped out and waved. Stacy Martinez? His tone was firm but not threatening. Yes, that's me, she said cautiously. Get in. Quick. Her heart pounded. She hesitated for a split second. Then the memory of the black car outside the cafe returned. Without another word, she climbed into the vehicle. The interior was sleek, leather seats, tinted windows. Every detail screamed wealth and secrecy. The man drove in silence, his eyes occasionally glancing at her through the rearview mirror. Stacy tried to read him. Was he an ally or another danger? You're safe with me, he finally said, breaking the tense silence. I'm part of Andrew's team. He's concerned for you. Stacy let out a shaky breath, feeling a mixture of relief and disbelief. Andrew, his influence stretched further than she had imagined. He wasn't just a charming voice on the phone. He had resources, power, and people who would risk everything to protect her. They drove through winding streets until they reached a high-rise building tucked away from the main roads. Inside, the security was tight. Guards, cameras, keycard access. Stacy felt like she had entered a completely different world. Andrew met her at the elevator, his usual confident smile replaced by tension. You're okay? He asked, almost rushing forward. Yes, I'm okay, Stacy replied, her voice shaky. He grabbed her hand for just a moment, enough to ground her, enough to make her pulse quicken. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I never imagined this would happen so fast. Stacy shook her head. I don't even know what's happening. Why me? Andrew's eyes darkened. I don't know either, but whoever is after me, they see you as leverage. They want to hurt me through you, and that terrifies me. Her chest tightened. The man she had grown to care for, whose voice had comforted her through lonely nights, was vulnerable in a way she had never expected. And the thought that someone would harm her just to get to him, it made her feel more than fear. It made her feel connected, indispensable even. For the next few hours, she was escorted to a safe room, a luxurious apartment with a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Andrew's team monitored everything. Phone signals, street cameras, even security drones outside. Stacy marveled at the world she had stumbled into, one of wealth, power, and danger. Andrew stayed close, pacing the room. I need to know you're safe. I can't lose you. Stacy's heart lurched. His words carried weight, sincerity, and longing. She had never met him in person before tonight, yet every word, every glance, felt deeply personal. I'm here. I'm safe, she whispered, though her voice betrayed the flutter in her chest. Andrew nodded, then paused. I wish I could tell you everything, but some things can't be revealed yet. You have to trust me. She nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. And yet, the danger outside, and the pull she felt toward him, made it impossible to stay calm. Hours later, as the city lights flickered below, Stacy felt a strange calm wash over her. Andrew had promised safety, and for the first time since that midnight call, she believed it. But the reality of her ordinary life, coffee orders, late shifts, small talk, felt like a lifetime away. She was living in a different world now, a world where danger and romance intertwined, where every phone call could change everything. Andrew watched her from across the room, his gaze intense. I've wanted to meet you in person for weeks, he admitted, his voice low. But I never imagined it would be under these circumstances. Stacy felt a blush rise to her cheeks. Neither did I, she admitted. He stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking. But now that I don't want to let this moment go. Before she could respond, the phone buzzed again. Another call. Stacy instinctively reached for it, but Andrew's hand gently stopped her. Don't answer. I want to handle this. Her stomach sank. Someone was still after them. Despite the layers of protection, the danger was real and immediate. Her heartbeat raced, a mixture of fear and adrenaline. Andrew dialed quickly, his voice authoritative. Stacy watched as he barked orders, giving instructions to his team. Minutes later, he hung up, tension etched on his face. "They're trying to trace you. They might come again," he said quietly, almost as if speaking aloud made it more real. Stacy's hands shook. Then what do we do?" He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet comforting. "We stay together. I won't let anything happen to you. Not now. Not ever." Her heart pounded, the pull between them undeniable. But outside, danger lurked, and she knew this was far from over. She had been pulled into a world she never imagined, one where every moment of safety could be fleeting. And yet, there was a thrill she couldn't deny, a connection she couldn't ignore. Just as Stacy began to feel a fragile sense of security, a shadow appeared outside the window, tall, silent, and watching. Before she could react, Andrew's phone buzzed. A text flashed. "They found her. Move now. We'll reveal the true identity of the shadow, and whether Stacy and Andrew can escape the people hunting them. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of this thrilling billionaire romance." The text from Andrew's phone burned across the screen. "They found her. Move now." Stacy's heart skipped a beat. The shadow outside the window didn't blink, didn't move, just lingered. A silent threat against the warm, fragile bubble Andrew had tried to create. "Get ready," Andrew whispered, his voice tight. He grabbed Stacy's hand, guiding her toward a hidden door behind a large bookshelf. She stumbled slightly, nerves making her clumsy, but he steadied her. Where are we going?" Stacy asked, her voice trembling. "Somewhere safe for now. I have a secondary safe house. It's off-grid. No cameras, no trace. Just us and security I can trust." The elevator ride down was tense. Each floor they passed made Stacy's pulse pound harder. The city outside, bright, buzzing, alive, seemed like a distant memory, a world she had been ripped from without warning. As they exited the building, a black motorcycle roared past them, and Stacy jumped instinctively. Andrew's hand tightened around hers. "Ignore them. Focus on me." They reached another car waiting in a shadowed alley, a sleek black SUV, identical to the one that had rescued her hours earlier. Andrew slid into the driver's seat, Stacy beside him, and the vehicle peeled away from the curb. The streets were empty now, but every passing lamppost made Stacy flinch. She couldn't shake the feeling of eyes tracking them, waiting. She wanted to believe they were safe, yet a part of her screamed that danger wasn't far behind. Andrew broke the silence. "They're professionals," he said quietly. "They know how to manipulate, how to intimidate. You've been caught in a game far bigger than you realize." Stacy swallowed hard. "And I thought being a nurse meant I dealt with stress. But this is a whole different level." Andrew's gaze softened, a flicker of warmth breaking through the tension. "I know, and I hate that you're involved. I never wanted anyone else to get hurt because of me." She looked at him, her heart aching at the sincerity in his eyes. "Andrew, I'm scared, but I trust you." He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Good. Trust is everything right now." The ride was long, winding through narrow streets and abandoned industrial areas. Finally, they arrived at a secluded house, surrounded by dense trees, a high fence, and layers of security that made it feel impenetrable. Andrew led Stacy inside. The interior was surprisingly warm, cozy furniture, soft lighting, a kitchen stocked with essentials. But there was no denying the sense of being trapped, hiding from a world that refused to leave them alone. Stacy sank into a chair, her legs exhausted. Andrew crouched beside her, taking her hands in his. "We need to plan our next move. I can't let them find you again. But first, we need to know who's after us." She nodded. "Do you think it's connected to your business?" Andrew's jaw tightened. "I don't know. There are enemies, sure. But something about this feels personal. Someone knows too much about us. About you." Stacy's stomach churned. Me? Why me? Andrew's eyes softened. You're important to me. That's why. I can't lose you. Her breath caught. The words, the vulnerability, the promise. They hit her harder than anything in her ordinary life ever had. She leaned slightly toward him, the pull between them undeniable. For a brief moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them, the chaos outside fading into silence. But the peace didn't last. A sudden noise, sharp, deliberate, snapped them both to attention. A faint metallic click from the front of the house. Andrew's hand went to his phone. They're inside. Stacy froze. Her heart raced as adrenaline surged through her veins. Inside? How? Andrew's eyes hardened. I don't know. But we don't wait for them to make the next move. He grabbed a small handgun from a hidden cabinet and handed Stacy a small stun device. You'll need this. Don't panic. I'll protect you, but I need you ready. Her hands shook as she accepted the device. This wasn't a hospital. This wasn't a cafe. This was real danger, and she had no choice but to face it. The sound of footsteps grew louder. They weren't just intruders, they were organized, calculated. Andrew led Stacy to a back exit, a narrow passageway leading into the woods behind the house. The night air hit her sharply, cold and biting. Stay close, Andrew whispered. Run when I say. Don't stop for anything. They moved through the shadows, every rustle of leaves, every snapping branch making Stacy flinch. She had never felt fear like this, not during a night shift, not during an emergency at the hospital. But alongside it was a strange, thrilling sense of trust, knowing Andrew was beside her, guiding her, protecting her. Suddenly, a voice called out from the darkness. Stop! You can't escape! Stacy's heart jumped. She glanced at Andrew, whose eyes narrowed, scanning the trees. Move! He shouted. They sprinted, branches whipping past their faces. The world became a blur of dark shapes and flashing lights. Stacy's lungs burned, her legs ached, but she didn't dare slow down. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew, and a chilling thought struck her. They weren't just after Andrew, they were coming for her. As they reached a clearing, a car was waiting. Andrew pulled Stacy inside, and they sped away into the night. But even as the SUV raced through empty streets, Stacy couldn't shake the image of the shadowy figures. Silent, relentless, and terrifyingly close. Andrew's voice broke through her thoughts. We're not safe yet. Not until we find out who's behind this. And why. Stacy nodded, gripping the seat tightly. Fear and adrenaline coursed through her. But beneath it all, there was something else. A spark of connection, a deepening trust, and a growing realization that this billionaire she had never met in person was becoming her anchor in a world turned upside down. As the SUV turned a corner, headlights blazed from the shadows. Another vehicle had intercepted them. Stacy's stomach sank. There was no clear escape this time. The driver of the other car stepped out, a familiar silhouette illuminated by the headlights. And then she recognized him. The figure stepping out of the headlights froze for a moment, and Stacy squinted through the darkness. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. There was something hauntingly familiar about the way he moved, the way he held himself. Andrew's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his jaw set in a grim line. Stay calm. Don't make a move until I say. The man approached, and Stacy could now see his face illuminated by the SUV's interior light. Her eyes widened in shock. It's Dr. Cole? She whispered. Andrew glanced at her sharply. What? Dr. Cole? From the hospital. Stacy blurted out. He helped me during my residency. He's brilliant, but She trailed off, unsure if she should continue. Andrew's eyes narrowed. He's with them. Stacy shook her head. No, I don't think so. He's always been a little mysterious, but I trust him. The man raised his hands in a gesture of peace. Andrew, relax. I'm not here to hurt you or her. We need to move now. Andrew's grip on the wheel eased slightly, but his eyes never left Dr. Cole. Explain. Fast. Dr. Cole nodded and spoke quickly, his voice low. "I've been tracking the same people who are after you. They're dangerous, yes, but they're after something much bigger. They have assets, influence, and patience. You can't fight them head-on. But I have a safe route, one they wouldn't expect." Stacy glanced between Andrew and Dr. Cole. Every instinct screamed caution, yet something about the doctor's calm authority reassured her. Andrew finally nodded. "Fine, lead the way, but any trick, and you won't walk away." Dr. Cole gave a tight smile. "Understood." The SUV followed Dr. Cole's vehicle through winding streets, empty warehouses, and narrow alleys. The cityscape melted away as they drove deeper into the outskirts, and the air grew colder, sharper, almost electric with tension. Stacy's hands gripped the edge of her seat. Every so often, headlights in the distance reminded her that the danger wasn't gone. It was just hiding. Finally, they arrived at an isolated property surrounded by high walls and dense forest. Dr. Cole led them through a side gate into a dimly lit courtyard. Inside, the air smelled faintly of pine and dust. The place seemed abandoned at first glance, but Stacy could sense it was carefully prepared for emergencies. "This is the secondary base," Dr. Cole explained. "We have supplies, communications, and security measures that even the best trackers can't bypass easily. You'll be safe here, at least for a while." Andrew exhaled, finally allowing himself a moment to relax. "It's secure enough?" Dr. Cole nodded. "For now. But they're resourceful. You can't let your guard down, not for a second." Stacy let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Safe. It feels like the first time I felt safe in days." Andrew's hand found hers across the seat of the SUV. His touch was grounding, familiar amid all the chaos. "We'll get through this," he said, though his eyes betrayed the weight of doubt. "I promise." Inside the base, Stacy helped unpack supplies and set up a small area for herself. The sense of normalcy, however small, was comforting. Yet the questions that had been swirling in her mind refused to leave. How do they know so much about us?" she asked finally, breaking the silence. Andrew shook his head. "I don't know. I've been careful. But someone's watching. Someone who knows my moves before I make them. And now you're part of this too." Stacy flinched, her stomach twisting. She had chosen a quiet, ordinary life. Long shifts at the hospital, helping patients, small moments of connection. But now, the ordinary had vanished. And yet, she felt a strange thrill at being at the center of something so high stakes, so real. Dr. Cole interrupted the tension. "We need information. They're not acting randomly. Someone is orchestrating this, and they want something from Andrew's empire, or from him personally." Andrew rubbed his forehead. "I've faced rivals, threats, corporate espionage. But this is different. This isn't about money. This is personal. And now you, Stacy, are wrapped up in it." Stacy looked down at her hands, trying to calm the racing of her thoughts. I don't know if I can handle this." Andrew's voice softened, almost a whisper. "You can. Because you're not alone. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Not ever." Her heart beat faster. She wanted to trust him, to believe that promise, but doubt lingered like a shadow. How could someone like him, with so much at stake, be so vulnerable with her? Dr. Cole interrupted the private moment. "Andrew, Stacy, we need a plan. They'll make their next move soon, and we have to anticipate it." They spent hours strategizing, analyzing possible threats, routes, and contacts. Stacy felt overwhelmed by the complexity, but Dr. Cole's calm explanations and Andrew's protective presence gave her strength. Hours passed, and night deepened. Stacy found herself alone in a quiet corner of the base, the glow from a small lamp highlighting her tense features. Her mind wandered to Andrew, the way he had protected her, the way he had trusted her with his heart. A sudden noise made her freeze. The base's security system beeped, an alert of unauthorized entry. Her heart lurched. She bolted to the control panel and saw a figure attempting to breach the outer gate. Andrew and Dr. Cole rushed to her side. "Stay behind me," Andrew instructed, his voice firm. "This might get dangerous." The figure outside the gate froze for a moment, then disappeared into the shadows. Dr. Cole frowned. They're testing us, probing our defenses. It won't be long before they strike again. Andrew looked at Stacy, eyes filled with a mixture of worry and resolve. We'll face it together. Whatever happens, we're not backing down. Just as Stacy was about to respond, her phone buzzed inside her bag. A number she didn't recognize. Hesitant, she answered. A distorted voice whispered, "You can't hide forever. We're closer than you think." Who is targeting Stacy and Andrew? Will their safe house really keep them secure? The words from the phone replayed in Stacy's mind. You can't hide forever. We're closer than you think. She shivered, gripping the receiver like it might protect her from whatever threat lurked outside. Her gaze darted around the dimly lit safe house, the shadows suddenly feeling alive, heavy with danger. Andrew's hand found hers again, firm and grounding. "It's a threat," he said, his jaw tight. "They want to intimidate us. Don't answer again unless you have to." Stacy nodded, though her heart still raced uncontrollably. She had never felt fear so tangible, so suffocating. But there was also a strange thrill. Her ordinary life as a nurse, or even as a cafe worker in quieter days, had never prepared her for this. And yet, now that she was in the eye of the storm, she couldn't deny a part of her felt alive, charged with adrenaline. Dr. Cole moved toward the main security console, scanning multiple monitors and tapping on the keyboard. "We're being watched more closely than I anticipated. Whoever this is, they have resources, state-of-the-art surveillance, inside contacts. They know us almost as well as we know ourselves." Andrew's hands clenched into fists. "Then we'll make them know that we're not easy targets. I won't let them threaten her. Not her, not me." Stacy's eyes softened as she looked at him. In all the chaos, all the danger, she realized something terrifyingly wonderful. She had fallen for him. Not the billionaire in the glossy magazines or the polished boardrooms, but the man who stayed by her side when the world threatened to tear them apart. Hours passed as they worked on fortifying the safe house, setting traps, monitoring the perimeter, and analyzing the threatening phone call. Every creak of the old building, every distant rustle outside, made Stacy jump, though Andrew's constant presence and Dr. Cole's calm guidance helped keep panic at bay. Finally, exhaustion forced them to rest, at least for a short while. Stacy sat on a cot in the corner, her hands folded nervously in her lap. "Do you ever think," she began softly, "that maybe this is too much? That maybe we're in over our heads?" Andrew knelt beside her, tilting her chin up to meet his eyes. "I've faced threats before. I've built empires and crushed rivals. But never someone like you. And that's exactly why I won't let anything happen to you. No matter how big the storm, we'll weather it together." Her heart swelled at his words, yet unease lingered. Danger had a way of creeping in unexpectedly, and she knew the next attack could come at any moment. The night deepened, and silence blanketed the safe house. Stacy's eyelids grew heavy despite the tension, but sleep refused to come. She stayed alert, listening to the wind brushing against the walls, the faint hum of electricity, the occasional creak of the old floors. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the courtyard. Stacy bolted upright, her heart leaping into her throat. "They're here," she whispered, her voice trembling. Andrew was already moving, draping a protective arm around her as he ran to the window. Outside, shadows moved like ghosts among the trees. Figures were attempting to climb the walls, testing the perimeter. Dr. Cole's voice came through the intercom. "Stay inside. I'll handle this." Stacy clutched Andrew's arm tightly. "Do you think?" He shook his head firmly. "Don't even think it. They won't get through. Not while I'm here." The intruders tried to breach the gate, but a sudden flare of lights and an alert siren forced them to retreat momentarily. Stacy felt her stomach twist with a mixture of relief and dread. This was only a temporary victory. She knew it in her bones. Minutes dragged like hours as the tension mounted. Stacy felt dizzy, trapped in a whirlwind of fear and adrenaline. And then, as she stepped back from the window, she noticed something. A small, black device half hidden in the shadows near the corner of the building. Her pulse quickened. "It's a bug," she whispered. Andrew's eyes widened. How did they get that close? Dr. Cole appeared behind them, scanning the device carefully. Sophisticated. They've been watching for weeks. This wasn't just a random attack. It's calculated. They know our habits, our movements, everything. Stacy's hands trembled. Then what do we do? Dr. Cole set his jaw. We remove it, trace it back to them, and then plan our next move. But first, he paused, scanning the perimeter. We make sure they don't know we found it. That means staying calm, staying focused, and not giving them a single advantage. Andrew reached for Stacy's hand again. We've come this far. We survived together. That's all that matters right now. But just as the tension seemed to ease, a second crash rang out, this time closer. The sound of shattering glass made Stacy freeze. Her eyes darted toward the window, and her heart stopped. Through the broken pane, she caught a glimpse of a figure moving with lethal precision, dressed entirely in black, a mask covering their face. They were fast, methodical, and terrifyingly skilled. Andrew's eyes narrowed. Get down! He pushed her behind the couch as the intruder entered the safe house, silent but deadly. The lights flickered, casting distorted shadows across the walls. Stacy's breath came in short, panicked gasps. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to scream. But she stayed rooted, frozen under Andrew's protective gaze. Dr. Cole moved quickly, intercepting the intruder with a swift, calculated move. A struggle ensued, heavy and tense, the sound of scuffling echoing through the small space. Stacy's hands shook violently as she watched, powerless, her heart hammering. Then, in a sudden, shocking moment, the intruder turned, reaching for something tucked under their coat. Stacy realized, with a jolt of terror, that it wasn't just a fight. They were after her. Before Andrew or Dr. Cole could react, the figure lunged toward Stacy, and the room erupted into chaos. The last thing she saw before being shoved to the floor was the glint of a weapon, and the intruder's voice, cold and menacing. She's coming with us. Will Stacy survive this close encounter? Can Andrew and Dr. Cole save her before it's too late? Don't miss Act 7. Subscribe and turn on notifications to see how their love and courage are put to the ultimate test. Stacy's heart pounded in her chest as the intruder's shadow loomed over her. She could barely breathe, panic making her limbs feel like lead. Andrew and Dr. Cole moved with precision, but the masked figure was fast, faster than they had anticipated. Stacy now, Andrew shouted, grabbing her arm and yanking her toward the back door. She stumbled but didn't resist. Adrenaline surged through her veins, giving her strength she didn't know she had. Behind them, the intruder lunged again, but Dr. Cole intercepted, throwing a heavy object that sent the figure staggering backward. Once outside, the night air hit her face, crisp and shocking. Stacy gasped, trying to steady her breath, but Andrew held her close, whispering in her ear, "We're not letting them win. Not tonight. Not ever." The safe house, once a sanctuary, now seemed like a trap. Every shadow threatened danger, every sound a possible threat. Andrew led her through a maze of alleys and side streets, Dr. Cole covering their rear, while the distant sound of sirens from the city barely reached them. Stacy's mind raced. She had spent her life caring for others, healing patients in quiet, predictable routines, whether at the hospital or in the cafe she sometimes worked. But tonight, nothing was predictable. Everything was survival, adrenaline, and fear. And yet, in that chaos, she felt a strange clarity. She knew she was alive, and for the first time, truly aware of what mattered. They reached a safe point, a nondescript apartment rented under a different identity. Inside, Stacy collapsed onto a worn couch, shaking from the adrenaline and fear. Andrew sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders, offering silent comfort. "You're safe now," he said softly, though his eyes betrayed the tension he was holding back. "We've got you." Stacy looked at him, seeing both the billionaire she had read about in the papers and the man who had grown into someone fiercely protective, someone who had risked everything for her. Her heart swelled with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Love? Yes. But also gratitude, awe, and a sense of connection she had never felt before. Andrew, why me? She whispered. Why do you care so much? He turned to her, his eyes locking with hers. Because you're different. You see people, really see them, not just as roles, as jobs, as problems to solve. You see me, Stacy. And I can't ignore that. Her chest tightened. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words lodged in her throat. Instead, she simply leaned into him, allowing herself a brief moment of peace. But the calm was short-lived. Dr. Cole's voice broke the silence. We need to move. They know we're here. That intruder wasn't alone. Stacy's stomach dropped. She had hoped this night of terror was over, but reality hit hard. The threat was bigger than she had imagined, and it wasn't just one person, it was a network, calculated and relentless. Andrew quickly gathered their essentials. Phones, wallets, a few personal items. We can't go back to the safe house. We need a temporary location, somewhere they won't think to look. Stacy, stay close. No distractions. They moved through the city under the cover of darkness, every street lamp casting long, trembling shadows. Stacy's hand gripped Andrew's tightly, not just for safety but for reassurance. She couldn't imagine facing this nightmare without him. Hours passed as they switched cars, changed disguises, and evaded surveillance. Each step felt like a high-stakes game, a dangerous dance where one wrong move could cost them everything. Stacy's exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her, but the fear of being caught kept her moving, alert. Finally, they reached a small, secluded cabin outside the city, surrounded by thick trees and a silent lake reflecting the moonlight. It was rustic, quiet, and offered the perfect cover for the night. Inside, Stacy finally allowed herself to breathe. She sank into a chair, rubbing her hands over her face, trying to calm the racing of her heart. Andrew sat opposite her, his expression both protective and tender. Why me? She asked again, her voice barely above a whisper. Because you answered a phone? He said with a faint, ironic smile. And that one phone call changed everything. And because I can't imagine a world where you're in danger and I'm not there to protect you. Stacy's throat tightened. She had never been someone people fought for, not really. Yet here was Andrew, willing to risk life, reputation, and freedom for her. And despite the fear, despite the chaos, that realization ignited a warmth inside her that she hadn't felt in years. But then, a new sound cut through the quiet, a beep from her phone. She froze. Andrew's eyes followed hers, narrowing instantly. Not now, he muttered, snatching the device. The screen displayed a new message, anonymous and chilling. You can run, but you can't hide. We're closer than you think. Stacy felt the color drain from her face. Every muscle in her body tensed. They had escaped once, but the message made one thing terrifyingly clear. The danger was far from over. Andrew set the phone down, jaw clenched. They know where we are. This wasn't a random strike, they've been planning this. They're patient, organized, and ruthless. But we're smarter. We'll find a way to end this. Stacy swallowed hard, the reality sinking in. Do you think we'll survive? He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. We have to. Not just survive, live, fight, and come out stronger. Together. Her heart responded, not just to the promise but to the certainty in his voice. For all the fear, all the danger, she realized she trusted him completely. And maybe, just maybe, that trust was the first step toward something more than just survival. It was love, raw and undeniable. But as the night deepened and shadows pressed against the cabin walls, Stacy couldn't shake the gnawing fear that this was only the beginning. The intruders weren't just after her. They were after something bigger, and the stakes were higher than she could have imagined. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside, and the front door burst open. Stacy froze, recognizing the silhouette immediately. Andrew, she whispered, terror overtaking her. Outside, a figure stepped in. Their enemy, closer than they had ever imagined, and armed with intentions far darker than either of them had prepared for. Can Stacy and Andrew survive this new threat? Will their love withstand the storm? Or is this the end of their midnight magic? The figure in the doorway didn't move. Stacy's heart raced as she realized it wasn't just any intruder. It was someone she recognized from the shadowed faces she had glimpsed before. A cold chill ran down her spine. Andrew stepped in front of her, placing himself between Stacy and the threat. His calm demeanor belied the storm of emotions raging inside him. Anger, fear, and an unshakable need to protect her at all costs. "Who are you?" Andrew demanded, his voice steady but commanding. The figure removed the mask slowly, revealing a man whose face was partly familiar. Someone from Andrew's past. Someone with a vendetta. Stacy's breath caught in her throat as she realized this was personal. A grudge that wasn't just about them, but about Andrew's empire, his life, and now, dangerously, her own. "You think you can hide?" the man sneered, stepping closer. "But I've been watching, planning, waiting, and now it's time to finish this." Andrew's jaw tightened. "You're not taking her. Not now, not ever." Stacy gripped his arm, feeling the tension radiate from him. Despite her fear, a strange sense of resolve washed over her. All her life, she had been trained to help, to heal, to endure. But this was survival. And maybe, just maybe, it was the moment she had to fight, too. The man lunged, and chaos erupted. Andrew moved first, blocking the attack with precise, controlled force. Stacy ducked instinctively, adrenaline sharpening her instincts. She grabbed a heavy vase from a nearby table and swung it, narrowly missing the intruder, but enough to make him stagger back. "Stacy, stay behind me," Andrew shouted, his voice a mix of warning and protectiveness. Dr. Cole, who had been scouting outside the cabin, burst in through a side window, taking the man by surprise. "You're not going anywhere," he said, tackling him to the floor. For a moment there was silence. Stacy's chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath, her mind spinning with the near misses, the danger, the undeniable pull she felt toward Andrew. He looked at her then, and in that moment all the fear, all the danger faded slightly. All that remained was them, together, bound by the night, by the threat, and by something stronger than either could fully articulate. But the calm was fleeting. The intruder wasn't alone. A noise from outside, the screech of tires, the slam of a car door, alerted them. Reinforcements were coming, and they weren't waiting for an invitation. Andrew grabbed Stacy's hand. "We need to move. Now, I won't let them corner us." They bolted through the back of the cabin, navigating the forest with practiced urgency. Every branch, every shadow, became a potential threat, but Stacy's fear was tempered by a new kind of courage. She wasn't just running. She was fighting, surviving, and holding on to the man she had come to love in a whirlwind of midnight calls and chance encounters. Hours later, they reached a hidden safe house, one of Andrew's contingency locations. It was secure, fortified, and for the first time in what felt like days they could breathe just a little. Stacy slumped into a chair, her hands shaking. This is insane," she whispered. Andrew knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. "I know. I'm sorry. I never wanted you dragged into this. But I can't regret it either. Not if it means I get to keep you safe. Keep you with me." Her chest tightened, a mix of fear and longing. The world outside might be dangerous, unpredictable, but here, in this moment, Andrew was hers and she was his. Their connection, born from a wrong number, had grown into something neither of them could ignore. But danger wasn't done with them yet. A sudden alert on Andrew's phone silenced the room. The screen displayed a live video feed of someone approaching the cabin. A masked figure, armed, moving deliberately. Stacy froze. Andrew's hand found hers again. "We have to be ready," he said, voice low but firm. "No mistakes. We survive this together." The seconds stretched into an eternity. Each footstep outside the cabin echoed in their hearts, a reminder that safety was temporary, and the night's horrors were far from over. Stacy's mind raced. She thought about her life before Andrew, before the calls, before the danger. She had been a nurse, a caretaker, a woman who lived for others. But now she was someone who could face fear head-on. Someone who could fight for love, for life, for survival. And as the figure outside reached the cabin door, the handle slowly turning, she realized that everything had led to this. Every choice, every midnight call, every heartbeat. The night would test them, push them to limits they didn't know existed. But if they survived together, nothing could ever break them. The door handle clicked, the door creaked open, and Stacy held her breath as the shadowy figure stepped inside, smiling. Did you really think you could hide from me forever? Can Stacy and Andrew survive this ultimate threat? Will their love survive the deadliest night of their lives? The shadow stepped fully into the dimly lit safe house, and Stacy's heart froze. The masked intruder's grin was cold, predatory, the kind of smile that promised chaos. Andrew's protective stance didn't falter, but his eyes flashed with controlled fury. You shouldn't have come here, Andrew said, voice low but dangerous. The man chuckled, a dark, gravelly sound. And yet, here I am. You think you can hide behind walls, behind money, behind love? None of it matters. Not when I've waited this long. Stacy gripped Andrew's arm, her knuckles white, but she didn't look away. Fear was there, but it was tempered by the courage that had grown inside her over the past weeks. She had answered a wrong number, and it had changed her life in ways she couldn't have imagined. And now, she was determined not to let it end in tragedy. Andrew's phone buzzed, a silent alert. He didn't take his eyes off the intruder. I gave you every chance to stop this. Now it ends. Suddenly, the intruder lunged forward. Andrew moved with lightning speed, intercepting him, their struggle crashing into furniture and scattering papers. Stacy ducked instinctively, her pulse pounding. But then, she saw something she could use. Across the room, a small fire extinguisher sat forgotten. Without thinking, she grabbed it, aimed, and sprayed it directly at the intruder's face. The chemical cloud blinded him for a moment, enough for Andrew to gain the upper hand. He pinned the man against the wall, restraining him with force and precision. It's over, Andrew growled. You're done. The intruder struggled, but the fight was over. Stacy sank into Andrew's arms, shaking. I thought we were done for, she whispered. Andrew kissed the top of her head, holding her tight. Not while I'm here. Not while we're together. I won't let anything happen to you. But the night wasn't done testing them. A sudden alarm sounded from outside. The intruder had been part of a larger operation. Reinforcements were coming, and they were fast. Andrew knew they didn't have much time. Stacy, we have to move. Now, he said, urgency sharpening his tone. They raced through the hidden exits of the safe house, Andrew leading, Stacy clinging to his hand. The forest surrounding the cabin was dark, but Andrew knew every path, every shortcut. They moved swiftly, silently, shadows among shadows, hearts beating in unison. Eventually, they reached a secure helicopter landing pad, one of Andrew's last resort safety measures. The whir of rotors filled the air as a helicopter approached. Stacy's stomach churned, fear mixing with exhilaration. She had never imagined herself in a situation like this, yet she felt alive in a way she had never known before. As they lifted off the ground, leaving the intruders behind, Andrew held Stacy close, whispering, "We made it. You're safe now. We're safe." The city lights spread below them like a sparkling tapestry. Stacy's hand found Andrew's, their fingers entwined. I can't believe this is real," she said, voice trembling but filled with wonder. "All of this, from a wrong number?" Andrew smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Sometimes the smallest mistakes lead to the biggest miracles. And I think we were meant to find each other." The helicopter soared into the night, carrying them away from danger, from fear, from everything that had tried to tear them apart. In the safety of the cabin-turned-helicopter escape, Stacy finally let herself relax. She had survived terror, uncertainty, and the unrelenting test of trust and love. And now, she was with Andrew, The man whose voice had captivated her, whose presence had made her heart race, and whose love had become her anchor. As dawn approached, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, they landed in a secluded location, a new beginning waiting for them. They stepped out of the helicopter hand in hand, the first rays of sunlight warming their faces. Andrew looked into Stacy's eyes, his own reflecting a mixture of relief, love, and determination. No more running, no more hiding, just us. Stacy smiled, her heart swelling. Just us, she echoed. They walked forward together, leaving the darkness behind, leaving the fear behind, and stepping into a future neither could have predicted. But both were ready to embrace. A wrong number had led to midnight calls, stolen moments, and a love that had been tested by fire. And somehow, against all odds, they had survived. As they disappeared into the soft glow of morning, a message arrived on Stacy's phone. A new number, unknown. She looked at Andrew, eyebrows raised. Another wrong number? She teased lightly, though part of her heart skipped. Andrew laughed, pulling her close. Whatever it is, we face it together. The sun rose higher, illuminating a city that still slumbered, unaware of the love story that had unfolded in the shadows. And in that moment, Stacy realized that life was unpredictable, sometimes dangerous, but always worth taking the risk for the right person. Their love, born from a simple mistake, had endured storms, threats, and heart-stopping danger. And as long as they faced life together, nothing could break them. Just when it seemed their nightmare was over, a familiar ringtone echoed in the distance. Another call from a mysterious number. Stacy hesitated, then answered, smiling nervously. Hello. Could this be a new adventure or a new threat? Watch the extended series and stay tuned for bonus scenes. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.